Beyond Radio and through the Wolf Spirit Media Network, helping you transform from fear to freedom and reminding you of your true power. During this broadcast, we will discuss anything and everything connecting to owning your inner power and the essence of your spirit. We will hear inspiring stories from guests, as well as guidance from the spirit world. Jump on board for this incredible ride. Here's your host, Joanna.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back. And for those of you who live in the U.S., our neighbors, happy Memorial Day. I hope you had a wonderful long weekend. It's Joanna, of course, and tonight we're going to be talking to one of my longtime friends. We've met actually quite a few years ago. She is, her name is Helen Lee-Atkins. She is an author, Clairvoyant Medium, Facilitator for development circles, and a mentor. I'll give you her website. Her website is www.helenlee-atkins.com. She also have an Instagram page where she provides free daily messages from Spirit, and that is at Helen Lee-Atkins on your Instagram. So today we will talk about Helen's book. Helen, like I said, is an author. She just published one of her three books. It's a series of three where she opens up about her life as a clairvoyant medium, her childhood challenges and how she dealt with them, and a lot more. So stay tuned, particularly if you are struggling with your own psychic abilities or skills, or if you have interest or fascination with the other world, or just want to learn more and you're just listening because you like what we talk about. Because I think you will find this very, very, very helpful. Helen, hello.
Yes, hello, Joanna.
Hi, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Welcome you. Thank you. So we actually met, we were talking earlier, about 8 or 9 years ago.
Yes,
which is interesting because when I first, one of the first times I met Helen is when I was attending one of my own workshops when I was developing my own abilities, and it was the very first time that I ever did channeled writing, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. All I knew is that some energy stepped into my body. I felt like $1,000,000, and I kept writing, not knowing what it was. And Helen actually years ago, or actually not too long ago, when we started to talk again, she said she recognized my gift, whatever that was at the time. So, and Helen has been at it for way, way longer than I have. She actually has had experience since she was a little girl, which I do not remember. So that's a very interesting aspect. So tell us, Helen, tell us a little bit about yourself other than what I just mentioned briefly.
Well, I cannot remember, my earliest childhood experience. I was a toddler. Mm-hmm. I remember in my out-of-body dreams, my guides would take me to a different dimension, and it was a beautiful place. It looked like a castle, and they brought me inside this huge library, and there were all these men. They're all, with dressed in white robes. They had white hair, long beard. They would prop me up on a stool and make me read these books. And I thought to myself, why are you making me read these books? There's no pictures in it, no illustrations. But I carried on, and my treat was, once I finished and they finished questioning, I was allowed to play in the garden in the back. It was beautiful. The colors were vivid. And before I knew it, poof, I was back into my little toddler body again. And this would happen, very naturally. Again, I was born in Vancouver, Canada, to immigrant parents from southern China. We lived a simple life, but as I grew to sort of understand, there was a part of me that understood a lot of things which couldn't be explained, and my sister was different than me. There was nobody I could really reach out to and ask and help guide me, because it wasn't mainstream as it is now. Now you can sit there and Google and poof, or YouTube, and there's so much information now that's available. Yeah.
And your background, your family's background, was there a specific belief system? Was it a spiritual belief system? Was it a strict kind of, what was the belief system of your family?
It was, my tradition is Chinese, and there's a lot of tradition because my father was a very traditionalist. My mother was a Buddhist, and there was certain months in the calendar that she would, burn incense and make offerings. We never attended church, but, being exposed to it and also, growing up and listening to the stories of traditions and culture and legends. So it was very intertwined. And so I was struggling, as a lot of maybe some of your listeners can understand, being caught between the two cultures, being born in, in Canada and having this rich tradition, or even these, born in the States or any other countries. And then I had this other side of me, this spiritual side. So I was just trying to weave in and out.
When was the first, if you remember, or from your memory, when was the first time you actually consciously realize that, wait a minute, what I'm experiencing is not the norm in my family? When did you become aware of that?
It's written in my ebook. It's in the first 2 chapters. It was, I think I was probably about 3 years old, and we were just getting ready to go. It was a Saturday morning. My mother, myself, and my younger sister. It was a weekly event. We'd go out, either go grocery shopping, or sometimes we'd catch a movie. And I was all ready, and my mother was, for that particular morning, my sister was really, really fussy. So I was just sitting there, and then I looked on the wall clock, and next thing you know, I went into a trance, and I went out of body. And then my mother come running over, and she shook me, and she says, Helen, don't you ever do that again. People will think terrible things of you. And from then I knew how to shut down, and I never showed that side.
So do you feel that your mom actually knew what was happening at that moment?
When I was very young, I was given the message from my guides that there will be a time when I can share that all these spiritual experiences with my mother. Right. And I'm just a little bit older than you, Joanna.
Right.
But it wasn't until I was 45 years old that I was able to really come out of the spiritual closet, as so to speak, and let her know.
So when you had that experience at that young age, when you looked at the clock and you went to a trance, and when your mother shook you and said, "Don't ever do that," or "Don't do that because whatever people will think," what do you think she saw in order for her to say that? Or do you feel she had an inkling of what was happening but didn't want to name it?
I'm not too sure about that. I can't answer that because I was, like I say, 3 years old.
Yeah,
at that time. Maybe it was, I think she probably called me and I didn't answer, and she just saw me just staring at a wall, and it probably scared her, frightened her.
Yeah, my gut, not that I'm going to talk about your mom here, but my gut feeling is your mom probably had awareness of those things, but whatever that she was born into did not allow her to fully develop it.
That's very true. Yeah,
because normally when as you know, when you go into trance, there's really nothing that different about you other than you have a blank look on your face, and you're kind of like you're there, but you're not there. So it's interesting that she made that comment. Now, one of the things that you call yourself is a clairvoyant medium. So that's something that has always not confused me, but it was always very interesting because there's all the different clairs. There's the clairaudient, clairvoyant. So help us understand the differences between the clairvoyant, clairaudient, and all the other clairs. I think there's 4 or 5 altogether.
4 or 5, yes. Now, again, it's mentioned in my ebook. Now, clairvoyant is actually clear seeing. It's you can see, it's seeing with, people say, either third eye. It's also referred as the mind's eye. For me to best describe it, it's almost like, say you're in a movie theater and you see the huge projector screen. Poof, I can see that. And then I could see little pieces like segments and break it down or zoom in and zoom out. That's how my mind works in that way.
So that's the psychic vision, correct? Because there's also psychic hearing.
Vision, yes.
Right.
Clear. And of course there's,
so you predominantly have the vision. Is that your predominant, Claire?
That is that, and also I can hear. It's the clear audience where it's clear hearing. Actually, all the clairs it's all your basically your hearing, seeing, touch, feeling, tasting, and your gut feel, but on a different scale of sensory.
Right, because a lot of people that I have come across who are not into this kind of thing, but they're interested, there seems to be a lot of confusion of somebody calls themselves a clairvoyant medium, somebody calls themselves an empath, and there seems to be a bit of a confusion, and it's basically like breaking down the senses, right? It's like any sense. It's the sense of hearing, sense of feeling, sense of knowing, sense of whatever there's also tasting. So your predominant is vision and hearing.
And at times I'm open to all the other clairs.
Right.
Like for the tasting and the smell, it happens, but not as often as my other clairs. Not as often.
Because I've had few instances in the last little while where I've had the clairgust, when you can actually smell and taste, when I would have a spirit come in with literally what smelled like a roast, and my client would go, "What are you doing?" And I'm saying, "Can you not smell the roast in the room?" And it was the father who was a chef coming through. So that's really interesting. So when did you first realize that you were a clairvoyant medium?
Clairvoyant. You know, Joanna, these clairs are second nature to me. It's like breathing. I never knew there was a term or a name for it, because my generation growing up, there was not a lot there in the media, or it's talked about, or maybe it's a cultural thing as well, there as it is now. But you know, the thing, Joanne, is how I discovered there was a name to all the different extrasensories. They used to call it ESP, you know, the extrasensory perception. Right. During my generation, but I don't want to age myself, but that was what it was referred to. It happened when it's also mentioned also in the book, because it's all about my struggles of discovery of my gifts and finally embracing it and understanding how it works. It was in my last year in high school. It was study block, and we had it in the school library, and I usually sit in my usual little corner desk, and then for some reason I was drawn to the other side of the room, so I thought, okay, let me see what's on that side. And I sat myself down, and all of a sudden I saw this book on the bottom shelf. It was like, I went over and I pulled it out, and it was a book on the metaphysical world, esoteric. And then I thumbed through a few pages, and it talked about clairvoyance, and I went, oh, that's me. And I thumbed through some more, and it talked about out-of-body experience or astral travel. Right. Oh, that sounds familiar, and so on. So that was a treasure book I would always keep renewing. But that was my actual understanding of the connection of why I was doing all of these things. Yes.
Was it at that moment that you almost, and I don't know if the right terminology, but the word comes to me, was that the moment where you felt validated?
Yes, in a sense, yes. I mean, but then I was like 17, 18, but at least I had at least say, somebody understands me. Something makes sense. It was in a book saying, okay, it's validating. Okay, you're okay. You're fine. Yes. You're
normal. Exactly.
A so-called normal, quote unquote normal.
Yeah. Whatever normal is. Exactly.
Yes. Normal.
So because this is now what you do. Your purpose, your passion is to help others, and we'll talk about the book a little bit, and it's a series of 3. When did you actually start to work with your gifts more so than just having a moment here and there? So did you first have what I would call regular life, although don't misunderstand. I don't mean that now your life is not regular, but did you have a regular, corporate job like I did, or tell us a bit about how you got into,
No, we all have to live life because, the spiritual work embodies our life experiences. Now, again, I married, my high school sweetheart at that moment. This is my ex now. I'm remarried, very happily. And all exes all get along. The family all have embraced, our relationship and everything. But, married early, I had 3 children, but Spirit came to me when I was 16 and I said, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to do the work. Spirit came again when I was 18. And I said, no, I want to live life. I was dating my ex at that time. I want to enjoy life. Okay. And Spirit finally came to me after the birth of my first child. And I said, wait until my child becomes a certain age, then I'll do the work. Mm-hmm. And so sure enough, once you make a agreement with Spirit, you've got to honor it. So when my youngest child got his driver's license. Okay, all my chauffeuring duties, everything was just okay. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have 3 children, all the schedules. You can, I guess the audience can appreciate when you have children, you have these schedules and juggling, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, I've got this free time. So I enjoyed it for a few months. And then all of a sudden I thought, oh, there's this void that I've been, and I was going through a lot of, some questions about my own personal life as well. And then this, center close by to my place was offering, a 5-week course on how to read the tarot card. And I thought, wow, that'd be wonderful. I've always wanted to learn how to read the tarot deck. And whenever there was a psychic fair that was happening at the local mall, I'd always, put myself in for a session. And to be Joanna, I was so disappointed because they were fishing. They were doing their readings and they were doing safe readings, like generalized. So, and I thought, well, I'll just take it as interest. I don't know if you remember the James Bond movie where Jane Seymour, she played, this young psychic, and she used the tarot deck, the witch's tarot deck, and that was fascinating. That fascinated even tarot. So, and then from there, poof, everything just all came. It all was all aligned. And then there was additional courses offered, and I finally met people that were like me. And that felt so good. That felt so good. So that was a pivotal moment. I was so happy to be accepted.
So let me ask you a question, because I know a lot of viewers or listeners and my YouTube viewers will resonate with this, because I have a lot of people emailing me and asking me to ask these questions, and even with myself. The part of you that said to Spirit, okay, let me wait until my youngest child is, 16 years of age, and it's, do you feel that there was a part of you that was actually scared to enter into that world or into that realm?
Not at that point in time when I was learning, and all of a sudden all the clairs, whether it's through tarot or through psychometry, which is reading, the energy from, an object like a watch or ring or keys or glasses or clothing. It was fun because the thing was, because I was able to be in my tribe.
Your element, yeah.
And people understood, and they were like me in many ways, and it was a great exchange. So that was a good moment. But Joanna, it was one of those things is, when you're a child, they say, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? Of course, Clairvoyant Medium was not at my top of my list. Right. It just came just gradually, and there were times as I was starting off, I wanted to throw in the towel, because it's not an easy path to walk. It isn't, as you can well appreciate. But
yes,
yeah.
But when spirit was coming to you and saying, okay, Helen, it's time, you're like, no, let me wait another 5 years. At those moments, before you actually started, because I know it was the same with me. I'm like, yes, I'll start when I'm 55 and retire early. Spirit was like, yeah, right. We'll tell you how it's going to be. At those moments when spirit came to you all those years earlier, do you feel when you said, no, let me wait, do you feel that it was the fear stepping out of the norm?
I guess in a sense, it's like anything. It's like when you start something new, whether it's the spiritual journey or a new job or even going on a date with a new person or being introduced to a different group. Of course, we're normal. We're human. We have these emotions. We go through and we grind ourselves to death and we find out, oh, you know what? It's somehow, again, we have to refer back to walking the path. And the fear thing is like inside, that is what you're called to do because Spirit called you, Spirit called me.
Yes. With me it was yelling, it wasn't calling.
Mine was yelling too, but I stalled. I
did too.
We do everything, but when Spirit comes knocking, you've got to answer the door and open it and walk through.
One of the things that I'm asking, but not really asking, I guess, is I am asking in a roundabout way. A lot of people have commented under my videos, but also have written to me saying, I have this pull towards this, but I'm scared. I don't know if this is something I should do. And there are, as you know, Helen, there are so many people who are on the brink, if you will, of connecting to their own spirit. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be reading cards or be a medium for a living. And I feel like many people are almost a little bit afraid because they feel like if they connect to that, all of a sudden they have to say goodbye to their normal life. And that's not the case, is it?
No, it's
not necessarily the case.
No, because it's finding the balance. This spiritual side, like me, I'm just a regular, normal human being. I'm a wife. I'm a mother of 3 grown children. I'm a grandmother to 3 lovely granddaughters. I have life. And at this time, I'm caring for my mother, who's, elderly and looking on her and helping her around as well, too. So my life is full, but this is one extension of me. So it's learning to find, and as maybe some of your audience viewers and listeners, they're walking between 2 worlds, but they have to know that we live in this world of reality. And we have our responsibilities, our loved ones, and life. And then we have this other spectrum. And Joanna, I walked this path and I've been able to travel to many places around the world. I've met many spiritual light workers. And the sad thing is there are a percentage that stay in the spiritual. Yes. And they run away from life. And that's in my opinion, you got to find the balance, a healthy balance.
And I've seen it. You've seen it. I mean, you know me. I'm probably one of the most normal person. I don't, I go to the gym 6-7 days a week. When I tell people what I do, they kind of scratch their face and I go, really? And it's like life is life. I just happen to do this. But you touched actually on a really good point, which, my guide is just saying, ask the question. Yes. So, one of the questions that was posed to me not that long ago is, how does one decipher between someone who is genuinely connected and someone who is not?
Go with your gut.
That's what I always say.
As well as, ask others, like, referrals or it's a small world, the word of mouth, it gets, very quickly. And actually, if you don't have those to, in front of you, just even talk to that person, that medium psychic, and you get a feel. As well as testimonials, yes.
And I'm glad you mentioned it, because whenever somebody approaches me, it's the same way. I always go back. You need to listen to your own intuition, because spirit will guide you to the most appropriate person. And I feel sometimes what happens is when people are desperate, that's when they get into trouble, because they want to hear certain things, and their desperation, which stems from fear, will more likely than not bypass their intuition. And that's when they are more likely to get into a situation where they're not necessarily with somebody who is genuinely looking after their best interest.
That's very true, Joanna. And there are some sad cases where, because generally when people, at least, seeking the services of the medium, they're very vulnerable. They're still going through their grieving period. Doesn't matter how long, they've lost their loved ones. And so there are mediums and psychics that do pounce on, take advantage, and that's
just really like anywhere else, and just like any other profession, right?
Oh, it is. Yeah. Until one day, there's that spark that says, this doesn't feel right. Yes.
Yeah. So we keep referencing to your book, but I actually want to talk about your book. So.
All right.
How did this actually, so when was it that you got the call, if you will, the ding dong, write the book?
Ding dong.
Because you and I connected many, many years ago, and I remember you said to me, you were going to write a book. And, sometimes it takes a while. And you told me all those years I was going to write a book, and mine is still sitting on the shelf, not written, and I'm pushing it away, and it's a conscious thing. So what was the premise of writing your book?
Okay. Again, it wasn't something I set out to do. I remember way back in 2005, friends recommended this astrologist, and I thought, all right, maybe go. That was during that period of time when I was going through a lot of my own spiritual and personal journeys, and so she sat me down. She said, "Oh, you're gonna be an author of books." And I looked at her and I said, do you have the right chart? It's not me. I'm not I can't even write.
What are you thinking?
And then what are you thinking? It's like, not me. And so I just listened, and then I thought, all right. And then through the course, I received the same message. You're going to write books. You're going to write books that'll touch people's soul, spark healing. Your words will just bring peace and just some guidance through many mediums, not just here in this country, but when I was spending a lot of time in England, and then in my travels. But as you know, sometimes spirit brings through messages in the most uncanniest ways. I'll give you two examples. As you mentioned earlier in the show, I do mentorship, with people who are, embracing their spiritual gifts, or whether they want to understand, because I have a lot of young professionals that they are open, but yet they're not going to, read tarot cards or do mediumship or anything, but they have the gifts, but they just want to know how to at least understand it and what happens in such a case. So anyways, this one young girl, one of her homework assignments I always give to my students. I'm such a tiger mom, when it comes to my students.
Oh, that's how you learn, right?
Better them. So it was channeling homework, would you believe, Joanna? And her channeled message to me was, Helen, you are being led to books and writing. You are meant to heal, inspire, and teach with your words. Spirit is wanting you to be a writer, like articles, which I did. I started off, books, etc. Your angels will help you along the journey. So just stick with it and create. And that was dated April 2015. And another time I was having coffee with a friend, and he had a friend come in visiting from Australia. So we all met for coffee and chit-chatted, and then she said, Helen, I'm not what you call it psychic meeting, but I hear this voice pounding in my head. I have to give you the message. I said, well, what is it? And she said, you're to write a book. Get started on your book. People need to you got to get the book out. So I thought, I thought that was the most uncanniest message from that, that source.
That's like spirit gets me more often than not. And you guys are going to laugh. In the shower, in the bathroom, and when I'm at the gym.
Yes, that's when your mind is switched off because you're focused on what you have to do.
Exactly. That's where my aha moments come in, so I always laugh. But anyway, So going back to your book, so just remind us, tell us the title again. It's one of three, right?
It's one of three. It's Dearest Darling Spirit series, okay? The first one is called The Strong Bonds of Love, Volume 1. And this entails, I think the first 4 chapters talks about from early childhood to my teenage years, to spirit coming to me. And then it talks about, I was lucky to travel over to England to attend the Arthur Findlay College, which is, people always tease that it's like the adult Hogwarts, college.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit.
Great place, yes. Into my travels, because I did live in England for a little while, and I traveled through Germany, some of the Scandic countries. So there was a lot of and then from there I just accumulated all these case studies. The first volume 1, there's some of the case studies. Of course, I changed the names and some of the things just for privacy, but the main elements and the key lessons are there. Like there's a couple that dealt with depression and suicide. There was ghost hunting, psychic children, pet heaven, even connection with mothers that's passed on or fathers that's passed on. And then volume 2 continues on with my case study work. Through my travels, there's a section called, True Love, where one partner is waiting for the other partner, from heaven waiting for, the loved ones, to escort them over. Right. Psychic children as well as spirit children. I talk about spirit rescues where I help spirits go, through the light. And I talk about how the land, environment, and house readings can affect, individuals in the home. So, and volume 3 would be more spiritual guide, like Homework for the Soul. So, watch out for that. It's all published. I've decided to go the self-publishing route. It's all on Amazon Kindle, and it's published in 13 different countries. So if the listeners are in the States, they would look at Amazon.com. Canada would be Amazon.ca, Canada, and in the UK it would be Amazon.co.uk. And just download, if you don't have, if you download the Kindle app, you can, read it on your computer, your desktop, your iPad, or your phone. So, yes.
So are you saying all 3 are published, or just the first one?
Just the first one is. Yes. First one is. But I'm just trying to let the audience know there's
anticipation.
3 in the series. Yes.
So in your first book, in the one that is out and ready to be purchased,
13 different countries.
So you and I talked, and part of that book focuses exclusively on your challenges as you were growing up and becoming aware of all your gifts, and then trying to see how it all fits in, right? So. Yes. And the latter part is about your experiences, but also about the case studies. So someone who is trying to figure out, okay, do I have psychic gifts? And what is it that I'm feeling? Who would benefit from reading your first book?
It could be the ones that are curious. They want to know, what goes on in the medium's mind. So after each section, I write a little journal note, like Dearest Darling Spirit, and I just do a quick assessment about it and my viewpoints on the subject matter. And it could also, if it's able to sort of expand and open some of the reader's mindset, I touch somebody's, and opened up their mind to what the spirit world is and what goes on in a medium's mind. I'm not there to change somebody, but if it's able to make an awakening or just saying, an understanding. And the next readership would be people who are in the spiritual closet that, like myself and you too, you knew that you were different and experiencing all this. Now that everything is so much in the media and talked about and that, maybe reading somebody else's struggles and experiences will maybe spark that individual to start exploring and getting the guidance and lessons of how to hone it in and when and how to use it properly, etc., and learning the code of ethics, and that'll be great. And the third group would be just people who are light workers, because we all learn from each other and share.
So it's virtually for anybody, really.
That's one of the main concepts I wanted to touch. It's not like I just want to single out one market, one group, but it's a topic that is so open now and so accepting now. Yeah. And
not only that, and you and I know this very well, we are all psychics. Every single human being has the sixth sense. So it's not even a question of am I a psychic or not. The answer is yes. It's whether you want to expand on it and whether you want to, become a pianist versus just learning how to play piano. That's really what it is. And some people are becoming more aware of their gifts or I don't really want to call it a gift anymore because it's part of who we are. So when people say, well, you have this gift, well, no, you are a doctor or you are a clerk or your gift comes from the same plane as mine. It makes no difference. It's a different way of expressing, but we all have them. So your book is really saying, hey, these are my experience. You probably have them too. You may not be aware of them as much as I was, but at the end of the day, if you want to be more aware, this is what you can do, right?
Yes. It's just, it's a vehicle, to just information.
And at the end of the day, I say a lot of this stuff. At the end of the day, we have lots of endings, lots of end days. At the end of the day, becoming aware of one's psychic gift does not automatically say that you have to quit your life and become a tarot reader. It has nothing to do with that. What it does mean is that you become much more aware and you have the ability to see and perceive things outside of you in a way that you may not have had awareness of before, but is profoundly helpful. It's really gaining another tool.
That, and it's actually understanding and embracing. You clearly pointed out, we all are psychic. We all are. Maybe people don't want to refer themselves as psychic, and I think, but we all do. We all do. We all have we're highly attuned. We're all highly attuned. Yes.
Very good. So my guide asked me to ask you something, and yes. Okay, so one of the you were talking, he's like, ask her this question. So give us some of the examples. Let's say somebody's wondering, okay, am I going crazy? Like, is this real? Do I actually have a psychic ability? Am I really experiencing? What are some of the things that you can point at that would make you go, okay, if you have this or that, or if you're experiencing this or that, chances are you've got some things you might want to develop. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Again, example. All right. Say you walk into a room, you've never been there before, whether it's, at the office or you go into a restaurant or just somewhere, and all of a sudden you get these feelings, and they're uncomfortable. and you don't know why. You have no logical explanation for it. It's not like because it's a temperature, it's really hot or too cold. You get these feelings. It's kind of like the EGBT feelings, but it's just very uncomfortable. Or else if you meet somebody, very first time, you're being introduced, and you just don't have a good feeling about that person.
Or you feel like you've known them forever.
That as well. Yes.
Yeah. So we covered the part of when you do have awareness. What about if someone says, okay, I don't think I have any. How can I become aware of it? What would you suggest? Because
at times, just like myself as a child growing up, it's part of you. It's so natural. You can't seem to separate it, but you know you're different. There are, how I would do in my development groups, I'll have, hands-on exercises that will make people aware of, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. So that's how I would cover it in a circle group. But as a question, I would ask them to think back on maybe some experiences they've had or had had that was no explanation. Like example, somehow we sort of can say, oh, if I, like a very simple one. Okay. You look outside in the morning. Oh, it's a bright sunny day. I'm not going to take the umbrella, but your gut feelings tells you, oh, you've got to take the umbrella with you. By the time you come home, it's pouring rain. It's sort of something like that. It's very, very subtle, Joanna, as you know, it's subtle.
So you said a key word here because, my God is pointing. This is what you said. Really at the end of the day, it's becoming aware of a subtle feeling. And a lot of the times we are so automatic, we don't pay attention to the subtleties of what we feel. And you and I both know that in order for me to connect with spirit and give messages to my client, they are so subtle sometimes that sometimes I've done this for so many years. Sometimes I question myself, but the trust I have developed in my guides. Yeah. And I think that's quite normal. That's the human part. But that's actually what keeps me humble, and I'm actually totally okay with it. But I have developed trust in my guides, not even in myself, but my guides, that I know they would never let me down, because if they did, I would lose faith, and therefore I would never do my work. So it doesn't benefit them to throw me under the bus.
Happened so many times, in my journey. But again, we're taught from the very beginning, give what you get.
Yes.
And don't color or interpret more, because that will sway you away from the whole
and the subtle feeling is just like an intuition. That's a very, very subtle feel, right?
Yes.
So becoming aware, one of the things I think that you and I talked a long time ago is psychic awareness is really an awareness. So just like we are aware of our breath, we become aware of the subtleties. But so many of us are on a autopilot. We just dismiss it. So I can guarantee to a lot of our people who are listening, you get the promptings all the time, but you don't even know that's what it is, because it's so automatic and it's always been there, and you just never really given it a second thought. So
it's second nature. It's second nature. You don't think about it. You just do.
Yeah. So Arthur Findlay College, that's the Hogsworth, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
I've wanted to go. I don't think it's in my path anymore. Who knows? But you went a few times. So what is that like? And what is it?
It's on huge England. They have a lot of huge estate homes. Now, Arthur Findlay, it has a long history of the previous owners, but how it was named Arthur Findlay College was that time at the owner, Arthur Findlay, owned the estate. He willed it to the Spirituals National Union, who used that, wonderful estate as a learning center for a lot of the mediums, psychics, and it's open. They have weekly residential courses where your room, your board, and your course and your meals are covered. They have different topics each throughout the year, and they do have weekend courses, wonderful courses, and the top mediums teach there. The tutors are amazing. It's intensive. There'll be workshops, lectures, and I've learned so much. They help me understand not just my gifts, but to expand and to push beyond my comfort zone. But in the early days, it helped me address a lot of misinformation from the big smorgasbord of spiritual highway, because there's a lot of misinformation, and I felt I met people from different parts of the world fly in for each week, because you don't ever know who's going to be there. People from the States, from Canada, Australia, Europe, the Scandinavian countries, and throughout, England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and you network. And believe it or not, I know 2 people who personally found their soulmates there, and they're happily married. So, it's a wonderful, wonderful, I've had, very, very happy experiences there too, and as well as learning. Yes.
So speaking of experiences, by the way, I just got a text from one of our listeners, and she said, does she do any courses online? So I'm putting her on the spot.
Okay, sorry, repeat that. Courses on what?
Online.
Online.
Developing your gift.
I don't have any on Vimeo, but I do sometimes my sessions, from Skype, like that, but nothing online just yet. Yes. But thank you for prompting. That's in the works. Yes.
And speaking of experiences,
yes,
what are some of the top medium or medium psychic experiences that over your lifetime that seem to kind of stand out to you as the diamond in the rough, so to speak?
You mean in my case study work, or just?
Oh, yeah, it could be in your case study. Anything that is medium or psychically connected. The out of the ordinary.
Out of the ordinary. Okay, this is a little teaser for my volume 1, but you have to read volume 1 until, so it'll link into volume 2. Actually 2 very, very, very key ones. One of them was, on my second week at Arthur Findlay College. They also refer it to Stansted because it's by the Stansted Airport, or else they call it Spook Hall, because the taxi drivers that, pick up the passengers from Stansted Airport, or else the National Express bus would stop at Stansted Airport, and it's a short, 10-minute, drive from the airport stop to the college itself. So you're going to Spook Hall. So that's a funny name for it. So that's a cute nickname. Anyways, in my second week there, I had an assessment from one of the senior tutors, and he says, Helen, do you have any connection with TV or media? Anyways, what he forecast for me was I'll be doing something on TV media. And I went, really? Here he is. I'm here at this college and you tell me this? So, and that was in 2005. And it was in 2010 I was invited to be part of a TV program in Kiev, Ukraine. And I thought, what a wonderful opportunity. I was there for 4 months of filming. And of course, being December, January, February time, it's bitterly cold. Bitterly cold, minus 50, but, in the windshield. But it was such an experience that I to meet other Eastern Bloc, psychics and mediums. That was amazing, to exchange with them and share and, a lot of information. But I've had a couple of spiritual experiences there, which I will be in my volume 2, which I cover.
Can you give us a teaser?
That's a teaser. You gotta read it. That's a teaser. But the other one was here. I did a session for, this one fellow who's a very, very good, now we're very good friends. His wife had passed, and he wanted to have a session to make sure she was, fine in heaven. And so we had the session, and his wife was very, very encouraging, and she was, it's like these strong personalities in life, they come through its spirit very strong too. And so she wanted to say, you know what, you've done so much for me, because she passed from cancer. It was very short and very quick, but it's very traumatic and devastating for any, your audience out there who's either lost, loved ones or friends to cancer, or else, they have loved ones now, in those stages. And so she said, no, it's time you get on with your life. I'm going to help you find a new woman, and I will personally select her for you. And he thought, oh, maybe down the road, but not just now. I'm still grieving. He described how heartbroken he was when his wife died. And it was like, it was a huge chunk of his soul taken out, because they were married for about, over 11 years, and they built businesses together and everything. Anyways, so he's from Brazil, and so he had to make a trip back home a few months later to visit his family, and also to hit the celebration of life for his late wife. And during there, he met one of his old friends. And so anyways, fast forward a few months later, he calls me for coffee. I have two good news. One thing was, they had a business, and she said she'll have a hand in finding the new owner. Okay. That's one. Second news, I met this woman that I think my late wife has arranged for me. And the thing was, he met her through his current wife now, through this friend. But the canny thing is, this friend had introduced him to his late wife like 15 years ago. And they have both wives have the same name. That's
wow.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yes, how spirit works.
One of the things that came to my mind when you were talking about your experiences and the experience at Kiev, and having had worked with mediums and psychics in Kiev. And before I go there, my guide just stopped me, and he says, "You have to explain the difference." Okay, for those listeners who don't know the difference, what is the difference between a psychic and a medium?
Okay. As we established earlier, psychic or intuitiveness or sixth sense, we all have it. It's that gut feel. It's that feeling. You just know. Mediumship or mediums, it's inherent. It's in the gene pool. It could skip a generation. Or else, in my humblest opinion, it could be trained through deep spiritual training, either like Qigong or deep meditation, or else trauma. There's many parts of the brains that we don't use, but that's my understanding.
But the difference, as far as what the difference is between the two, my understanding and the way I understand it, and please piggyback me on this.
Yes.
We are all psychics. That's the psychic sense. That's the sixth sense. That's the gut feel or the intuition or whatever label somebody wants to use.
Yes.
Mediumship is the actual ability to clearly hear, feel, see, and know spirit from the other dimension as if a separate entity. So the way I always describe it is, every medium is a psychic, but not every psychic is a medium.
Yeah, you went in further, yes, to explain that, yes.
So that's because I think lots of time people say, well, what's the difference?
It has to be defined. Thank you for help.
And almost, and there are many times where many different people call themselves a psychic medium, which can be very confusing, because medium is implied that it's a psychic, but I guess there's all these different labels. I just wanted people to kind of have a, very basic understanding that, we are all psychics. I don't care who you are. You are psychic. You have the ability to feel and perceive. You are psychic. Mediumship, it's the ability to actually communicate clearly with an entity outside of you that is a separate entity outside of yourself.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Okay. Yes. It's like a medium is an extension to the spirit world, like loved ones in heaven, the higher intelligence, like your guides, angels.
Right.
Yes.
So the other question I was going to ask, and we have about 3 minutes.
Yes. 1 minute. Actually.
What is and I know, is it in a minute? What is the difference between the medium as you coming from Canada to the ones in Europe, or is there any?
The language of mediumship is a universal language. It doesn't encase like English, German, French, Chinese, Spanish. It's a universal language because with a medium through their clairs will decipher what that loved one is saying to their loved one here on earth. So there is no defining, separate language. It's a universal language of spirit. Yes.
Got it. Thank you so much, Helen. I'm just getting the heads up here that we're running out of time.
Right.
Please visit her website, Helen Lee-Atkins.com. I will also post this show on my YouTube channel, and I will also post her information under the Show More section. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Helen.
much for inviting me.
Thank you.
Joanna.
And everybody who's listening, I'll talk with you in 2 weeks, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.
Bye.